Onion Cycles podcast is about thought provoking, emotion evoking, action driven, step by step guidance to explore the unique, glorious, and wonderful ocean of your being. Because healing is a multi layered process of getting to know oneself. Become the self empowered empiric researcher by discovering the unique layers of your existence. With your host, Nadine Alma, welcome to the Holistic Healing Hub. Welcome to the Onion Cycles podcast.
All of a sudden, my whole body felt like it could float up to the sky. A lightness engulfed me that opened up the tightness of my muscles for what felt like the first time in my life. Air filled my belly, and I didn't constrain the expansion to hide the little bump that rose because of it. My shoulders fell down, my neck let go of the responsibility it held for all those years. The whole sensation washed over me, and it may have been minutes or seconds. I was unable to tell while tears flowed from my eyes as though a dam had broken. I think it was freedom or release or relief. Maybe all of it. Freedom to explore who I really was underneath all of those layers of expectations, conditioning, generational trauma, and personal behavioral patterns to secure my sense of belonging in any way possible. A release of all of these layers. A relief that whoever and how many facets of her I was going to find underneath these layers, I was going to be. Not perfect and not marvelous and not naughty or dirty or bad. She was me, and I was ready to honor her just the way she was going to be. Because I belong to myself. I belong in myself. I just am. Therefore, I just belong. Hello, my beloved fellow healing integrating onions. Welcome back to another episode. Welcome back to the Onion Cycles podcast, to the Holistic Healing Hub, where we open up a space of vulnerability, where we allow ourselves to give us time to get to know us, who we are, underneath all that noise, underneath all those responsibilities, underneath this life that we have created for ourselves, and from there free the light that is within, the essence, the spirit that is us. Thank you so much for your trust. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much for your time. I am happy to have you back. And for all of you new out there, a warm welcome to you too. I send you an embrace and a hug. I am happy that you decided to spend some time with yourself, for yourself. There is a worksheet that goes with every episode. And on this worksheet, everything that we discuss in the episode, as well as some exercises, accompany you on the journey and are there to deepen the journey for you on a personal level. This worksheet is available on my website for a free download. So make sure to hop on there, go there, www.redefine.org, and download your free worksheet, because as I think, so I feel, so I act. And in the acting, in the action, in rolling up our sleeves and doing the work that needs to be done, that is where the magic lies. That is where true change happens. Today's episode, story 44, episode 46, belonging. Now, inspired to this episode, I was by a video done by Christina Lopes, where she sort of suggests a new way of looking at belonging. And from there, I dove into the sources she named, which are Brene Brown and Maya Angelou. I will link all of my sources on the worksheet and underneath this episode. I wanted to structure this quite freely today because it is something that sparks a thought, and then from that thought, a feeling, and then in the acting is where we know what really resonates with us, right? So I always say in each episode, please just take away what resonates with you, and everything else you just let go. For me personally, the video and Christina Lopes' sense of discussing the topic of belonging was contradictional. It was sort of a paradox. I couldn't really place my feelings on it because parts of it I resonated with, parts of it I didn't. And that is where personally I find my magic, is when I can't quite put my finger on where I stand on that point. So then I start thinking about how it makes me feel, why it makes me feel the way it does, and how I can sort of try out the tools that are given to me in order to find out why I was sort of pushed and pulled and couldn't really place my state of mind or set my state of mind on a decision, if I can actually implement both sides, the one I resonate with and the other I didn't. So let me just dive straight in before I get too theoretical on this. I want to start with the definition of belongingness on Wikipedia. Is the human emotional need to be an accepted member of a group, be it a family, friends, relationships, or even like something bigger than ourselves, like religion, activism, and stuff like that. And I traced that back to the episodes of the series, the Art of Love series we did earlier this year, where we talk about how, in essence, the whole strive of us humans is to become from two separate pieces, or get from separateness back to wholeness. Because when we are in the womb, when we are in our mothers, we are totally connected, we are in oneness. And as soon as we are born, we experience this existence of separateness. So the whole strive, no matter what we do in life, consists of getting back to wholeness. Now, Christina Lopes dives into the definition of belongingness, but she also dives into the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and we discussed the Maslow hierarchy of needs before as well, where food or water and safety are like the basic human needs. And as soon as we have that acquired and consistently in our life, we then strive for something more that consists of love and belonging, and then ultimately purpose. And she says that love, in essence, is the energy we're made of. So, because it's so intrinsically us, we don't need to discuss if love should be really there. But belonging as a word is very loaded and very heavily conditioned to mean something very specific. And I believe that is where I sort of went away from her argumentation. So, in her description, or what I understand from that video she made, she sees belonging as something different than love. And to me personally, while doing this research and while also contemplating her content, I was like, in essence, you could just scrap belonging, because to me personally, love is belonging if it is unconditional, if it is not tied and attached to something.
And doesn't belonging sort of mean that, like being and longing to just be, longing to be authentic and still be unconditionally loved because of it, just because of who we are, because of us being.
And then I sort of, from that argumentation, was able to join up with her again, because what she says is her whole life she felt like an outsider, like not belong is very common, she knows now, but back then she felt like she was an outsider, and she was trying so hard to fit in, because society tells us that You have to fit in. You have to be looking for people and places to call home, and it's outside of yourself that you will find that. So it is sort of like a style that means that if we are doing something different, and if we're doing something different and have no other role models in our personal life, and if we are sort of drawn to maybe even feel good when we're with ourselves and not in constant connection and constant exchange with others, then we're something's wrong with us. Then like we don't belong to any system in the world, and we're unable to connect, and that means something is wrong with us. So her whole life is revolving around coming to terms with the fact that I'm actually not here to belong. So the essence of a video is saying that maybe you're not actually here to belong. And I feel like there's a great relief in saying this out loud, but there's also something wrong with it for me, because we come from wholeness, and we come from unconditional and pure golden warmth and light and love. So our whole being is designed and intrinsically is the energy, or made up of the energy of love. And because love is or equals belonging to me and equals authenticity as well, all of that sort of interconnects with each other to me personally. So therefore her sentence, I'm not actually here to belong, relieves me of the tension I feel within, with the constant question in my mind, if I do something wrong in my life, being within a system, why do I always have to sort of do something different and escape from that, and questioning myself constantly if I'm just like trauma responding and just running away from what life is really about, or like questioning myself in essence if I'm wrong, when in fact nothing is wrong with me if I follow that inner calling, if I follow that inner journey that my soul requires me to do. That journey is different to everyone. So on the worksheet, you'll find an exercise that actually explores your relationship to belonging and your relationship to love, and how that affects your relationships, how that affects your life as a whole. But for me personally, I feel like if there never would have been the suggestion from the outside world, from societal expectation, that we have to do it a certain way and there's only one way of living a life, then I would probably have never ever started questioning my inner strive to do it differently. And I feel like that is what Christina Lopes wanted to convey. But there was like this little friction within the sentence, I'm not actually here to belong, because I feel like in essence we are here to find our way back to wholeness, therefore find our way back to belonging, therefore finding our way back to love. Brene Brown said something in a podcast that I feel ties in lovely with that thought experiment, that there's actually nothing wrong with us if we don't feel like we belong, but there's also nothing wrong with us if we feel like our whole strive goes into belonging, if we then start defining belonging right? Because right now Brene Brown says the opposite of belonging is fitting in. And that is where we strive to be, right? We find a group, consent with some things that groups say, be it political or be it like whatever it is that you try to fit in. There was always some essence of myself that I suppressed in order to fit in. So Brene Brown says the opposite of belonging is fitting in, because fitting in is assessing a group of people and thinking, what do I need to be? Who do I need to be? What do I need to wear? What do I need to say? How do I need to act? Etc. etc. So, in essence, in order to fit in, we change who we are. And true belonging, which I feel resonates most with me and is congruent with the energy of love, is never asking us to change who we are. It demands that we be who we are. So, in essence, true belonging means finding people and places to call home that love our authenticity, that just take us who we are, with all the corners we have, with all the layers we still work through, with all beauty and all pain that we bring with us. Because if we fit in because just of how we've changed ourselves, that's not belonging. We betray ourselves if we fit in by changing ourselves for other people. We betray ourselves. We don't think that our authentic self is valuable enough, is lovable enough, is worthy enough to be seen, and will be rejected if seen. Therefore, I'm not actually here to belong, as a sentence from Christina Lopes. I don't think that is a right sentence in itself, because what truly matters is the definition of belonging to the individual. So, making up our mind, what does belonging mean to us? If belonging means to us to fit in, then we might need to rethink the definition of belonging, and we might need to rethink our whole kind of approach to how we want to thrive in our lives. Because, as Brene Brown says, fitting in is changing ourselves. And changing ourselves is, in essence, bad. Do you know that? Because the whole podcast, the whole year we spent together, is about change and constant change. The only constant in life is change. However, why we change, why we want to look at something and then decide if that is a part of us, should stay a part of us, feels good being a part of us, or needs to go, or needs to be loved, needs to be integrated, or whatever we want to do with that part that we look at, that is and should be up to us. It shouldn't be a thing of I change myself in order, or I suppress something for myself in order to fit into a group. Rather, it should be I come into a group and I see if I fit in. And if I don't, I continue my journey. Which brings me to the second part. Now that we've discussed that the sentence itself, I'm not actually here to belong, personally I feel like is wrongly put, and should more be like, what does belonging mean to you? What is the definition of belonging to you? Brings up the conversation to the second thing. What she addresses in her video is that some people actually are not here to belong, and they are freed by the sadness and the depression they experience when they see that they actually don't fit in, as fitting in is something that is very important, or is suggested to us by society and expectations that it is very important. Once certain people free themselves and hear that sentence, they are actually able to release, as I told in the story before, release all those layers, relieve themselves of the expectations, and are free to explore the possibility that what has been sort of veiled over, what has been blanketed over with layers and layers of expectations, of societal expectations, family expectations, of conditioning, of trauma, of the patterns we sort of figure out ourselves to stay safe in an unsafe environment. That goes back to something I agree in her video, where she talks about template changes. Once those people who have been told their whole childhood that they're wrong, that everything they are, that everything they trigger, that everything they ask, everything they point out is wrong, and they are wrong, once they free themselves of that wrongness that has been put on them by saying, I'm not actually here to belong, I'm good as I am, they stop the suffering, because they stop that belongingness is about attachment or neediness, right? It's sort of, as soon as you say, I'm not actually here to belong, you free yourself from the belief system that was put onto you that you should be belong, but you're not good enough to belong, and you'll never belong anywhere. Then you detach yourself of the neediness. You say, all right, I don't fit in. I am not belonging, but I'm good as I am, and I want to go on a journey of self-discovery. So that's it. That's what she calls a template changer, is saying that the natural act energy of a template changer is meant to change, is meant to point out that some stuff just doesn't make sense, that some stuff isn't honest, that some emotions need to be felt rather than suppressed. Therefore, they are not really welcome or loved by the people that want to live by those old templates. And the change that is ingrained within such a template changer, the strive to break out of subconscious programs and look at them for what they are and how they hold us back, fundamentally, that is where the template changer, or those people who actually resonate with the sentence, I'm not actually here to belong, that is where they shed that pressure and responsibility to seek belonging over finding their own voice and being authentically themselves. So template changes suffer most when they're told they need to belong and do the stuff the old way, but then most content when they actually free themselves from that belief system and do stuff in their own way and find out that their whole life revolves around, actually, I'm pretty good with being by myself, and I'm really actually all right with spending time with myself, because the more I get to know myself, the more I sort of realize that I'm actually a kind of dope person to be around. So I don't actually need any of that outside validation and that outside feeding of fear and making me feel like I can't stand alone, because the more I get to know myself and rely on myself, and the more I remove the pressure and the depression of needing to belong, I realize that I rise to stand alone. And that doesn't mean that I don't ask for help. That doesn't mean that I don't need love or support or people around me. That just means that I'm quite at home within myself. And there comes the beautiful quote by Maya Angelou: I belong anywhere and nowhere. And that is, I feel like, in essence, what I wanted to convey with this episode, is the question of, how do you interpret belonging? What do you feel like is important for you to feel like you're belonging? And is your sense of belonging something that makes you small, that makes you sort of slouch together and make yourself fill as little space as possible? Or does your sense of belonging enhance what light is within you and makes you want to emanate your energy out and makes you feel seen, understood, and truly unconditionally loved? And once you find that out, you then are able to sort of depict for yourself from that understanding, okay, my sense of belonging, my sense of home gives me security, gives me a true platform to feel no fear whatsoever to live my authentic self. Or my sense of belonging is actually more like I'm trying to fit in, and I'm trying so hard that I get anxious, that I feel like I have to change myself, I have to hide sides of myself, and therefore it might be time to roll up my sleeves and redefine what belonging, what I want belonging to feel like, and then from there move on to find myself underneath all those layers, all those years, all those emotional burdens, all of those things that don't even belong to me, and make up that mosaic from afresh and design myself the way it really feels right for me. And that can be different from day to day and week and week and year to year, obviously, you know that, because Change is the only constant in life, right? But I do hope that by just starting a conversation and just talking about it, something comes into awareness, something becomes conscious, and once it's there, we may look at it from every angle. And then at some point through that journey, whether it be with a therapist or whether it be with a friend talking about it, or whether it be just with yourself in your journal, or just talking out loud with yourself while you're on a hike, whatever feels good to you, whatever resonates with you, and how you want to approach that topic. But once we do that, once we approach that topic and look at it from different angles and really dive into it, we may experience what was the essence of the story that I told in the beginning, the tension that held a tight grip on the majority of my life. So, that moment in that story described how I felt when I discovered that actually I'm not wrong. I'm not right either. I just am. And I just am allowed to be. My hope, my strive, my intention for this podcast episode was, or invite you to sit down and think about your sense of belonging, what it is made up, if it feels good or not, and then maybe dive into the beautiful video and resources that are mentioned below from Christina Lopes, Maya Angelou, and Brene Brown, and just observe what it does to you and how it may assist you on your journey of self-discovery, on your journey of knowing yourself, getting to know yourself, and finding that light in the cracks of the layers beneath. I love you very much. I thank you so much for tuning in, for gifting yourself with that special time dedicated to just you and your thoughts, your being, your essence. And I do send you with a wide open heart all my love and light. I wish you all that you need and a pinch of what you want. And I see you next time, my beloved fellow healing integrating audience.